All right, here we go. It's episode 3 of The Educator and the Hustler. I'm the educator. I'm Laura Burke.
And I'm Freddie, I'm the hustler.
All right. We're super psyched to talk today because we literally just came up with the idea for this episode like 2 days ago because we were both, I think it's fair to say, Freddie, we were both kind of riding the struggle bus a little bit. We were having one of those things that I've noted as like an in-between day, right? It was just kind of like, what's going on in our lives, what's happening in the world, like how are we getting through some of it, and this sort of ambiguity and not knowing how to get through different things. And so we were texting back and forth, kind of trying to help each other get through it and move forward. And of course, because I'm me, I'm recognizing an opportunity. I'm like, oh, we should have this as one of the episodes because what we're talking about how we each get through sort of these ambiguous times and not knowing kind of what's next for us. Really was helpful for me. And then I thought about how I do that with my kids and how I've done it with my students. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give some examples of different things that we do ourselves, and then also what educators can do for kids or what parents can do for kids. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a strategy around focusing on what you can control.
Mhm.
And this is a really tough one because, as a self-proclaimed control freak, I don't always love when things in life are happening that I can't control. And so, for me, not being able to control the next step in my career, particularly the next thing that happens maybe with my kids or really anything in business as an entrepreneur, you can't always control those things. And so, something that I've done, I think that has helped me sort of control what I could is really start to make smaller intentional choices throughout my day. So rather than just being busy all day and just doing the next thing all the time, it was like this slowing down of, okay, what can I control? I can control how I show up right now. I can control what kind of things I spend my time on. I can control how I feel in a certain situation. And so, what I've done, I think, and you helped me do this also, is realize I can't control everything. So, what can I can control? I can control who I hang out with, which is a big one for all of us as adults and for kids. Like, who are we spending our time with? I've heard, that saying like that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so that's a really big one. I'm wondering for you, Freddie, like what are some things that you do when you're like in that space of just trying to focus on what you can control?
Uh, well, first of all, good to be back on here. Um, I don't know, man, it's tough. You know, I, I think part of that is understanding it, right? Like, it takes a while to even come to the grips that I can only control A, B, C, D, and F. Because I'm a control freak like you know, um, especially when you have your own business, like. I built it a certain way. I'm like dealing with that now, like, and having an agent and having like that whole trust factor. But really for me, it always comes down to like I do try to pray. You know what I'm saying? The other thing too is when I say, all right, like I can control A, B, C, D, and F, it really comes down to like really understanding that and what that means, right? So like, okay, Freddie, you could control, let's just take an example. I can't control a school or a business calling me to speak. Like I can't control that. But I can control me marketing to them and how much I market to them and setting a schedule about marketing to them. Like I might not control, I'll give you an example recently, like, I've been struggling a bit. I'm just dealing with grief. And like one of the things how I know that I'm struggling is my schedule's off. And so like I can't control necessarily if I'm tired, but I can control when I go to bed, right? Like I can control like I don't have to stay up all night. You know what I'm saying? Like little details, controlling diet, you know what I mean? Like, all right, if I'm tired all the time, maybe it's because I'm eating bad foods that make me tired. I can control what I eat, that stuff. But I just think that I know for me, when things spiral and I'm, not feeling well. And I need to say this too. I tell people all the time, like I haven't diagnosed mental illness, like multiple, right? Like, you know, I've been blessed. I was able to get my master's. I got family. I do all this stuff. But my mental illness didn't go away. Like I think sometimes people think because you're successful that you don't struggle with your mental illness. I haven't defeated it. I just have found ways not to let it get out of control, right? Like, and I
Right.
definitely make it easier because I ain't getting high on them. But don't get it twisted. Like, I have a real life diagnosed mental illness.
Yeah.
Like this isn't arguable, right? Blood work, brain scans, MRIs. Like since I was 9, been tested on. Like it's not arguable. So like I'm human. I still struggle. Like I'm human.
Yeah, because that's something we were talking about too the other day of like, you know, that mental health component, whether you're struggling with it or whether
Mhm.
people are helping their kids or their students struggling with that. What are some things that you can do to help with that? You talked about going to bed earlier, eating right,
Mhm.
all the things that everybody knows are the things that we can do. But sometimes you just need to hear it again, right? It's
Yeah.
like sometimes you just need to hear it over and over again. Sometimes you need to hear other people talk about what works for
Mhm.
them. Um, you know, Mental health and being able to control things is huge, right? Like let's talk about the anxiety and how being able to control things can keep anxiety at bay for a lot of people. I know that that helps me when I get anxious about something. I try to control it, right?
Yep.
Because then I'm less anxious about it. Uh, so I don't know. What are some things maybe that you do that are helpful for when you're feeling like your mental health is getting the best of you and you're trying to kind of
So
on the parts you
re
can control of that?
It's a good question. So recently, right? If you'd have asked me this, so it's twofold, right? Because I've been sober almost 9 years, right? So
Woo
for
woo.
me, yeah, no, God is good. So for me, is first of all, is admitting it because in this new life, the Lord has blessed me, to be a father and a husband and a granddad, and have a lot of mentees, and so like being placed in these roles, the people around me really rely on me. And I ain't really understand that until I started struggling. Like I knew that, like I knew that, but like when you struggle and you're the one that needs some help, and you see like, man, I really can't have a day off because the phone rings and the texts keep coming in, whether you're struggling or not, because the people around you still need help. And so that's been an awakening that I can't help them if I ain't helping Freddie. And it's okay that I had to be okay with admitting I'm not feeling right. So like that's been the thing with me recently is like telling like my mentees, listen, right now I ain't got it. Right, I don't feel
That's
well.
huge.
Right, like
That
I'm not.
ability to be vulnerable with people that are you're leading in whatever capacity you're leading, like
Yeah,
that's huge to be able to say that.
yeah.
Because we can't always be on. We can't always be on for everybody else.
No, and I had to, and see that's what I hate about this new job that the Lord has blessed me with, is that the job is you're always on.
Yeah.
Right, like you get up there, you speak, you knock it out, people running, oh my God, ah! But they don't understand. Like you're seeing the final pro. Like you're not seeing like what it takes, right? Like you wasn't there for the wounds of it, right? Like you're not there for the scars I got to live with. Like you're not, and I'm not mad at them, but I'm just saying like that's what's been big to me is admitting to people around me, hey, like somebody called me, hey, I need to talk to you, I'm struggling with this, text me, and saying like, listen, bless you, but I don't have it today.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And it's been deep. I really learned what a two-way street is. And I'm so glad about this because real early I learned, like when I was mentoring, due to the fact of how I got mentored, not with the people now, but back in the day, what I thought mentorship was, I'm here, you're here. And what I've come to learn is it's a two-way street. I've gotten much wisdom from my mentees and much more respect, telling them I'm not feeling well and I'm not doing okay, and what they've said back and how they came back. Like, and that's how I'm so grateful that I don't have that hierarchy in my mind. That's a
Yeah.
two-way street.
I love that you said that because I think that's something that as adults, we don't always think about. We think of that hierarchy. We think about
Mhm.
this person is my mentor, so they're there for me, and I'm the one learning from them. But you can learn as much from the people you're mentoring as they can learn from you. Like it is two-way. But I think it goes beyond that in education and parenting also. Like there are times as a teacher I've gone into my class and I was like, look, you guys, like, I'm on the struggle bus today. I need everyone to just be chill. I need everyone to like
Right,
help
right,
me help
right,
you because
right,
if you're at a 50, I can't get there with you. Like
right,
I'm like at a solid
right,
25%, you know?
right.
And so that's always that was a relationship builder with kids over the years of like,
Mhm.
oh wait, miss, like you're not okay too. Like you get to be not okay. I'm like, yeah, I get to not be okay. You get to not be okay. I get to not be okay. And then we got to like help each other out, right?
Mhm.
With my kids, I've done that with my kids too. You know, I've said,
Phenomenal.
look, you guys, like, and not just when I'm sick, right? But it's that mental health of like, look, I am tapped, you guys. I have nothing left. Like, do we have to do this right now? And that sucks sometimes to feel like you can't be there for other people. But depending on what it is, I was able to explain that to them. I was able to say, like, look, I don't have this in me tonight. Can we talk about this tomorrow? And if it's an emergency and we need to figure it out, like, I will rally and I will do what I can, but just know you're not getting the best of me right now. And that has allowed my kids and it allowed students to also say that to me then to say like, "Hey mom, I'm not there right now. Like, can we do this later?" And it is a really big two-way street that I don't think adults and kids always recognize as an option with each other, particularly when you're an adult and a kid, and
Mhm.
also when it's two adults with different sort of hierarchical relationships.
Because there's expectation,
Yeah.
right? But I need to say this, right? Quick story. By God's grace, I'm on my first national tour. I'm on my way to Arizona. I'm on like my eighth flight in like 2 weeks, right? I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
We get on the flight, right? And I don't know how it is in Arizona now, but you used to have to take this bus to like you don't walk straight onto the thing from the airport. You gotta like take a bus. And we get on the flight. I'm in the way back. I always sit in the back, right? And so I'm sitting in the back, and this kid's acting up. I mean, he's going in. Ah. And the mom stopped,
How old's the kid? Ish.
maybe 7.
Okay. I'm just trying to picture it in my
Yeah.
mind.
I
Okay.
mean, the kid going crazy.
Yeah.
And the mom stopped and she said, Jaden, look at me. He looked at her. She said, take a deep breath. He took a deep breath. She said, we're going to do calming exercise. And I watched this kid go from on 10 full episode wild to his mom saying, look at me, and using techniques and tools and clearly calmed him. I couldn't believe I wish I would have filmed it. I couldn't believe it. But you talk about like things we could have done, right? Things we can do. Love my mother to death. Couldn't ask for a better moment. I wish we would have been told that technique.
Yeah.
I wish that technique was taught to more people. And if it is taught, I wish more people would accept it.
Yeah, that's co-regulation, right?
I
Co-regulation.
watch it because I grew
Yeah.
up where you act like that belt fist fight like you just get beat like that's just there's not like there is no like what like you shine on me in front of all these people like you just there's no talking you just
Yeah.
get beat okay and I wasn't the only one like that many kids had that same story what I'm saying though is I watched it and I thought wow like that was the first time where I saw something like that and it was a lesson that there is a different way to deal with this whole mental illness thing.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I love that you shared that because that is something that was part of like my training, right? My training as an educator and as a
Mm.
leader was like, hey, and the saying is um that a dysregulated adult can't regulate a dysregulated
Mm.
child. You
Mm,
can't regulate a child if you're dysregulated too. And
mm,
so, that's one of the hardest things as an adult working with kids or with anyone really is like, how do you not match their level of heightened anxiety, right? We talk about navigating ambiguity and like this idea that sometimes people, kids and adults, lose their shit in that space. They cannot handle when they are feeling like they're not in control. And it should be, especially in a kid and an adult situation, the adult that is co-regulating with the kid is sort of bringing them down. You're not matching their energy. You're actually trying to like model for them and bring them down to show them that. I think you saw that happen a few times when you came to the school at Clara Brown. Like
oh,
you saw, I mean, Jody Darnell, shout out to the social worker there. She is a
look.
masterful co-regulator. Um, and that's the other thing is as an adult in those situations, there were times when I was dysregulated and I was like, I gotta
Mm,
tap out. Like I can't be the one to regulate this kid right now because I'm not in that headspace. And so I think that's the other thing about when we're talking about like navigating this ambiguity and really helping people,
mm,
because to me, I think of ambiguity often causes a lot of anxiety in people. That's why I kind of keep going back to that, right? And to your point about mental health awareness and taking care of yourself. And so I think about the connections that are needing to be built with people
mm,
and that collaborative space, right? That entrepreneurial skill of collaboration. And like, I knew often, like, there were times I couldn't regulate a kid that was dysregulated. So I would collaborate with Jody. I would connect with someone else that could in that moment. And then maybe I was that person at another time, right? But I
mm.
think it's a lot about using that collaboration and building those connections with people to be able to get through times that are stressful. Because nobody does all of this alone. Like nobody can do life alone. Let's just put that out there. Like nobody. Like you have to have your own village. You have to have. I read
Mm,
something recently about having your own personal board of directors, right? Your
mm,
own your own
mm.
group of people, whoever they are, wherever they come from, that can help you through that. I mean, certainly you're on my personal board, right?
Likewise.
And so, uh, yeah, I think that that's super interesting, in making sure that we're not the ones like adding fuel to the fire when kids or adults or friends or anybody are feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, everything through ambiguity and through anxiety. That can be really tough to do, but I think that it's always been worth it, right? Every time I've been able to connect with someone in that space and put my own sort of anxiety aside in order to help them, when I can do that, it's always been worth it for both people.
Yeah, I agree. I think too, and I'll just say this. I part of this is we're not teaching this, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the major thing. And the other part is, right, is that like my whole life I've been taught how to be an employee. And for the last 6 years, I've been an employee. I mean, I have my own business, right?
Right.
So the thing about having a business is it's all ambiguity. I mean, you essentially
Yeah.
you're entrusting the public to give you a salary. I mean, I mean that's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
I entrusted the school system will make sure that I'm going to eat every year, like, or the corporate, whatever. You know what I mean? So like the whole life of it. I'll tell you how I know it's ambiguity. So my one of my best friends, right? He said this to me. I'll never forget this. Now, my whole life, I thought he didn't, he's not into mental health. It's just not what he do, you know? And so I found out he had a therapist. I said, yo, you got a therapist? He said, yeah, I think everybody that owns a business should have one.
I
I
think
couldn't
everybody
believe,
on earth should have one.
couldn't believe he said, I couldn't believe it.
That's awesome. I love that.
I still almost can't believe it. But what the lesson of that was, now here's somebody that ain't nowhere near as deep in mental health as I am, right? But that's how hard business is.
Hmm.
the whole everything about business is ambiguity because you don't
Yeah.
know. And even when you get to a certain level, not only maintaining that level and then not knowing, like you, man, it's not for everybody. That's why I definitely understand why people work for people. I get it.
Yeah. And there's
It's
nothing
a
wrong with that either, you know?
no,
Like
it's a
everybody
different
has
type of
different
stomach.
needs.
I
Yeah,
ain't mad at you.
especially in different parts of your life too. You know, there's parts of
Yeah,
your
that's a
life that
good point.
require different
Yeah,
things,
that's a
you
really good
know?
point. That's a really good point. Like, it's funny. Me and my wife talked about this the other day. She's like, Freddie, if we had little kids running around here, oh no, all this traveling and being gone, and I
Yeah.
can't. She makes a good point. It's funny.
Yeah.
Even when our granddaughter comes over, like she's like, you on no meetings a day, right? Like
And
she'll
how
come.
old is
Like
she?
Olivia's 3. She'll be 4 this year.
Okay.
But it'd be that important, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, like, okay, like she'll be here this month at this time. You don't got to go nowhere, right? So I can imagine if we had 4 and 2 little kids around. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, different times of our life require different things, but I think that's what really struck me about our conversation the other day because going back, like we're super different. We've led different lives,
mhm.
and yet we're both struggling with
Same stuff.
what's going on in the world, what's going on with our world, how do we
Yup,
navigate through it?
yup,
And it wasn't any different for us. There's different things about the access to care that we have or the
yeah,
support networks that we have built with for each, for ourselves.
yeah,
So I recognize that there are like systemic differences that we've dealt with and continue to deal with, but really in the lives that we lead, we still were having the same kind of anxious ambiguity about things. And
yup,
so
yup.
I think that's what I want people to know is like this is not just if you're a business owner, you take those risks and you live in that space, or
Mm-mm,
if you're in education, you have like everyone
mm-mm,
in their own industries and their own lives has, very specific ways that they try to navigate through ambiguity. And I think kids, especially because, like you said, in most places, they're not teaching them that. The schools like Clara Brown Entrepreneurial Academy, the schools
mm-mm.
like other schools that are out there that have a handle on that really do actually explicitly teach that. But they're not going to get it by accident. You have to explicitly teach how to help kids calm down, how to regulate with them, how to figure out what they need in order to not just succeed, but to just be able to navigate like they're not sure. I mean, a substitute teacher could be something that creates anxiety for a lot of kids. And so even helping kids before there's a sub, whenever possible, hey, you're going to have a sub tomorrow. What do we need to do about that? What is that going to look like?
Yeah,
There's just so many ways to integrate kind of helping kids think through that ambiguity, through that space, and it doesn't matter where they come from.
yep,
Everyone's got to navigate that for themselves. And so I think as we talked about, like taking care of your mental health, having your own collaborative sort of support group, whatever that looks like, informally or formally, making sure you're building those connections with people, making sure you're intentional, you're calming down, your kids can see that, your spouses can see that, it's a huge model, I think, for people to be able to have that space and that intentionality to navigate through things because I know if I didn't have people I could go to when I was feeling anxious and I didn't know how to navigate through the ambiguity of life, I would be stuck. I would be like sort of paralyzed by this idea, like I don't know what to do. And so I think that just makes me grateful for you and makes me grateful for everybody in my life that is that person or people that can do that. Community is a huge thing, you know?
yeah. I until you we talked off air, until you said it, I didn't realize I'm in the middle of building a new community
Yeah.
because them 2 days a week at Panera was critical to my well-being. I didn't realize it until Panera wasn't there.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you say more about that for people that don't know
yeah,
what that means?
so I worked at Panera Bread for the first 5 years when I got sober. Um, I was there twice a week. I was a dining attendant while I was building my company and going to school. And I worked there before I even met Kim. And so while working there, I was in the dining room. My job in the dining room was just to greet people and make sure the dining room was clean and all that. And the job turned into I left with a whole stack of Panera moms and family members and people I love and I care about deeply. And I mean to the point where I done been to funerals, I done been to weddings, I mean, you're talking about people that love me to death. I'm talking about call me son. One of the ladies, when my mom was sick, knitted her a Steeler blanket and a Steeler uh pillow. I'm talking about people that, my mom passed, wanted to come 8 hours to her funeral, right? Like I'm talking about people that, like in my worst times of life, was there for me deeply. I mean, God sent me family, like legitimately. Um, and these are people that don't look like me, right? It's this societal unnorm, and that's what's deep about it. Like, you know, but it taught me a lesson about love comes in love, in many forms. And so I had this for 6 years. I worked at Panera 5 years, Tuesday and Thursdays. I get there at 10 o'clock, I leave at 2. And they come in, hey Freddie, how you doing? Hug you, love you, son, kiss me, all that. Like, and then it was gone. And I didn't understand until you said something like, wow, like I really miss that every day, that 2 days a week, every week. I didn't really, and my wife and Kim said that too. She was like, you know how many people, she's like, I know you felt horrible working at Panera because you're making $9 an hour, you're 30 some years old. She's like, Freddie, there's people that make millions of dollars that don't have the love and care that you had at your job. And I didn't understand that, right? Because we're taught, it's about how much money you make and all, and like, all that. But I had a job that I literally was going to twice a week, and people there loved me and checked in on me. Every decision I made, every move I made, we talked about it. Should I do it? Why I shouldn't do it? Everything. I'm talking about someone coming in there, sitting down with me, having dinner at their house, praying with me. My mom gets sick, them crying with me, talking to me. You know how big that is to have that type of love and care from community. And mind you, these are community members. We're not talking about a church. We're talking about in the community 2 days a week. People would literally say, I'll be over. Was coming just to see me. When I stopped working there, I don't even go there no more. Like, I didn't realize how important that was. So you were right. Now I got to find a new community.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
that's such a impactful story about community. I mean, shout out to Panera for having that culture, and
No,
maybe that's
no,
not that way
no,
everywhere, but like,
no. God bless you. You're a good human. No, they ain't had that culture. I created that. No, they're not getting that. No, they're
okay,
not doing
you
that.
know what? That's good. I'm glad to know that because to me, that would have been something that got created in the environment.
No,
But
yeah,
you're
I
not saying
created
that. You're
that.
saying you created that. That's
Yeah,
even more powerful.
they suspended me the first week for saying God bless.
No way.
Yeah, so I was
Are
working
you
there.
for
I was in the
real? Oh
halfway
my
house.
God.
So I had just got out of treatment where I did like a year in treatment, and so I came. When you get out of drug treatment, you either go to a halfway house or recovery house or back where you were living or your new apartment. Well, I was poor and homeless. I had nothing. So they sent me to a halfway house. So the halfway house I was at, some girl came in there and spoke and she worked at Panera. I was like, oh, I'm looking for a job. She's like, I bet I got you. Well, I worked there and I'm in there every day taking a bus to the Panera. And people walk in and be like, hello, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. God is good. Great. Blessed. Woke up, breathe. Like I'm just sober. Like I'm back in
Yeah.
life again. Like I'm feeling good. And so the lady came out one day and was like, I need to holler at you. She's like, we're suspending you for a week. I said, what?
Uh,
She said, yeah. She's like, you're not allowed to say God bless. I couldn't believe it. So I left, right? I'm like, all right, well, I ain't never coming back. Like I left. Like I'm out. Like I'm never coming back. I'll never forget this. My sponsor at the time, I called him, right? And I'm real upset. And I'll never forget. He said, God got something else for you to do. And he was right because a week later they called me and asked me to come back in, and I went back in. And I still said God bless, but I was mindful of how I did it. And then eventually it just got to a point where they just got over. And
Yeah.
so that's how that happened. But I'm so glad I didn't leave because one of the Panera moms who she calls me mom, I call her my son and all that other stuff. She ended up coming in that Saturday. And that's when we got tight. And she's the one that had knitted the thing for my mom, done all stuff, and how like just always being there for me and everything. But it's so deep. And that put the Green Bay blanket she gave me, I still use it to this day. But it's so deep because if I would have quit, I would have missed out on that family. I would
Wow.
have missed out. I would have missed out. So it was a lesson, man. And of all the things to suspend me for, because I'm telling you, God
Right?
bless. And the deep part is, Panera markets himself as a company that's about God, right? So, but it was a franchise, so I can't say it was a headquarters. But yeah, now when I left, they loved me. Oh, we can't believe you're leaving. It turned into like, oh, this is just how he is. This is what it is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm putting all this in my book. I gotta get this book done, man. I gotta get this
Yeah,
book
you need to put all this in your book because I
done.
think that's a really good message, Freddie, that like my assumption as someone that has built cultures in schools
Yeah.
is like, oh wow, that was the culture that was built there.
No,
And it's
no.
important to note that like, no, you can be in a culture that's not like that and build your own culture.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't like that at
sometimes the
all.
right thing is to not be in that culture. I get that too,
Right.
but like being able to build your own culture of community and people is huge. And the
Yeah,
fact
it's
that you did
amazing.
that is big. And I think people can learn from that, that even if you're in a place that for whatever reason you feel like you're not going to walk away from, assuming it's not a really toxic, tragic situation, like that you can build your own community there. You can find your own people that are not your own people that look like you and act like you and come from where you come from, but that are still your people, right?
Af- like to the point where when I'm struggling, one of the things I do is, and my wife told me, sometimes when you're struggling, drive over there. I drive over
Mm,
there, and because it's like 5 minutes from my house, and I sit in there, and I gotta watch going over because when I go in there and I see like three people that like Freddie, we met, they start crying like it gets personal.
yeah.
So I can't just go over there because it get like that job got personal. So like they'll be like, "Hey Fred, we miss you, man." Da da da. Like I start crying. Like I don't pay for food over there no more.
Well, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
Panera changed my life. Panera taught me never work for the money, work for your character, and God will provide everything you need. That job taught me. That job taught me how to be a good employee.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'll forever. And Clara Brown. On a side note about Clara Brown too, I need to say this. Was that Jody when I had that incident where the kid he kicked and bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to our audience, I watched it because I was a kid that I didn't kick and bite, but I did other stuff just as equally. And he kicked and bite, and when they told me, and I watched the whole thing in the hallway how they dealt with him, I'm figuring they're gonna cuss him out, it's gonna get bad, they're gonna call the police, and the way she handled. I mean, I still couldn't. I called my mom. I mean, me and my mom talked about that. I don't know if you noticed, but me and my mom talked about that for about 5 hours on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember
because
you saying that.
and she just she was real apologetic like we ain't know Freddie like the system was different then and everything was all about these kids acting crazy and back then when kids were they did and I knew what she was saying but what it showed me was like it woke me up to wait a minute when a kid does that we're not supposed to just hammer them we're supposed to get down to what's going on with them what at this age makes them want to kick fight and bite where are they learning this behavior what's going on that they feel that that's the answer and the way they dealt and the fact that y'all just didn't call the police and y'all dealt with them and I was like man like I wish every school was implementing that
Yeah.
I actually talked about y'all when I keynoted in Maryland I keynoted at the school board meeting and I told that story
Oh, yeah. That's
a
awesome.
couple people walked up to me and was like oh that's so neat I'm like thinking in my head like why is it so hard just to be nice like
Yeah.
why do we lack empathy with young children
Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
hard. Lots of reasons,
Clara
probably.
Brown. When that happened and I seen that, I mean, you was already my homie. That made you like my double homie.
Ooh, I got double homie status. Right on. Awesome. All right, Freddie. I think we're gonna wrap up here. I'm
Uh,
super glad that we had the conversation, a few days ago about kind
Me
of
too.
what we were both experiencing. I'm glad that we sort of put it out there for other people now. Hopefully
Yeah.
they can kind of see that everybody's going through different things for
We
whatever
human.
reason. And
Yeah.
that navigating that ambiguity takes a lot of those entrepreneurial skills that I talk about all the time, right? That collaboration, that connection with people, that risk to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable, and to really try to take care of yourself, and help kids take care of themselves, in a space of anxiety and ambiguity in the world. So um, thanks for spending the time chatting with me today. I appreciate
You
you.
you are the best. I can't even watch a Denver game no more without thinking about y'all. I can't watch a Denver game anymore. I was watching Denver Jokic and them last night. I can't watch it no more. I every time I see anything about Denver, when I go look at my fridge, somebody will be like, "Who are the Avalanche?" Like I have
Oh,
my
that's
little
funny.
thing. I still wear my
Yeah.
hat. Yeah, I love y'all, man. Y'all, I mean, y'all, y'all really, y'all are just good people. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So
Well, back
our
at
next
you.
episode, yeah, let it be known, y'all. We're human beings. We're human.
Yep.
We're human. So
Yep. That's why
uh,
we just keep it real and raw. And I actually had a woman in my women's empowerment workshop last week say that her and her friend, when they talk about being raw, they
mm,
use the acronym real authentic words. And I'm
mm.
like, that totally describes us. Like we're just kind
Oh yeah,
of
we keep it a
raw on
bean.
here.
Oh
So,
yeah, we keep it a bean.
yeah. All right, Freddie. Until
All
next
right.
time.
Until next time, love y'all. Stay safe. Be kind to each other.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.